Welcome to the Gyaff. Welcome back, Jared, for the third time. And thank you, Tariq Williams, for joining us. I appreciate you coming.
Yeah,
How you,
pleasure to be here.
how you doing?
Good, good. First time here. You got a nice setup.
Does this make you feel uncomfortable, this sort of thing, or it's just sort of...
I think if it was not people I know, I would have been uncomfortable. It could be a little intimidating with the lights and all the tech and
The
whatnot.
lights,
The
camera.
studio or just the gaff got you uncomfortable? Because for you had said for a little while it's probably something you wouldn't have done, and then we were gaffing at breakfast
Right.
the other day, and you're like, you know what? I think
do it.
let's do it.
Yeah.
Let's chat.
Well, it's just perspective, right? I mean, it's not like what you're saying is gospel and that's the opinion you're imposing on people.
Right.
It's just like, I find, like you mentioned friends, and like even though like there are a lot of people who I consider respectable in society, I guess, that I have to come and share their view. I think friends are the best people because, nobody takes themselves too seriously. And I think
Right.
like that's kind of how conversation should go anyway. So yeah.
Why sometimes people watch these sorts of shows and they just immediately start making judgments, and a lot of the satire and a lot of the jokes that we make amongst ourselves,
It's lost, yeah.
it's completely lost. It doesn't quite come across in.
But I
the manner
like that though.
in
I
which it
almost
was
kind of like
intended.
that because it's like
Screw them, man.
because it's like you kind of see who's who.
them,
You kind of see
you know?
who.
So that was actually Jared's sell to me
Yeah.
about coming on the show. Is like I asked him, so what's the deal? Is it scripted? We got topics.
Oh,
Do
not
we
at
need?
all.
And he said, bro, it's just like normally, like when we sit and having breakfast.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a chat, no structured agenda. We just
Is that what you
Loaded.
do after 40? You get breakfast.
After church, I go and have breakfast, and occasionally I invited you to breakfast
Yeah.
last Sunday.
he invites me to church too.
Invite you all to church
He
as
did
well.
invite me to church as well.
Nobody comes, but Starbuds in Albertown, proper breakfast.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, not bad.
I haven't
Not
been.
bad.
I told you, I haven't been Starbucks for like over 15 years. And the last time I remember, I was in high school, and I told him I went to Starbucks, waited for 2 hours on my date, and then got dumped.
Got dumped. Yeah.
Because of the weight or
No.
was
I
it-
was waiting, so I had to wait for 2 hours, and then
Why'd you wait for 2 hours, Banner?
when you're a teenager and you kind of just you kind
you
of
were a
toss up
teenager
and
15 years ago.
yeah.
Jesus Christ, I was. Never mind.
Collecting pension. I would have left after the first.
No, I wanted to leave. I mean,
Cell
I was
phone days. I
upset.
mean, was she texting
Yeah.
you being like, I'm on the way?
Yeah, and that was like the frustrating part,
Shows
Maybe I was-
up there, and then it's
maybe
like,
maybe
Alex,
there was some infidelity
this
going
isn't-
on. Who knows?
Yeah, I almost done. So she shows up and just says, Alex, this ain't working out.
Yeah, it was like I can't remember exactly.
Did
what
you
it
get
was.
dinner at least? Did you get food?
No, it was just like maybe like a
Can't have an
wandering kind of
appetite after that.
conversation.
Brutal.
Yeah, exactly. Totally lost. my appetite.
Brutal.
But yeah, it's a good life lesson. Maybe I think I've just healed enough to go back to Starbucks. Plus, I heard they remodeled. So since then,
You know, and this is not a knock at them, but the food is great, the service is great, but I think they could spruce up a
Prices.
little more.
Yeah.
The prices
Value,
are
yeah.
great. Oh,
Val-
goodness.
definitely value for money.
breakfast, absolutely.
and people
Yeah.
underestimate that. I think like it's so nice to find a place here, especially where you go there and good service, good food, good price, and that's it. It's not like, oh my god, this is the best thing ever, but it's like this is reliable, and we lack that so much across.
We got restaurants opening now, and people just call in price banner. Like, and I'm not going to call the names of the restaurants, but by virtue of having parquet floors and air conditioning, they're like, yeah, $10,000 for tortillas or whatever it is, But the actual food that you're eating, it's not expensive ingredients. It's not it's not any magic that they're making there. But it's the sticker shock is crazy. You were just
Yeah.
telling me about
Yep. I went to one of those places a couple of weekends ago, and regular cafe food, nothing special,
Yeah.
nothing to write home about. The prices were hot, and then 15% VAT, 40% VAT, 15% service charge. So you're paying 30% taxes on your meal. Like I never thought I'd see that in Guyana.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Crazy.
And like I said, the food, nothing special.
Food here is like ridiculous. I went to the market. I mean, I usually kind of just consolidate my shopping. So just a quick side note, like the other day I went to the groceries, and the most I'll spend on a grocery shop is like 20 something.
What?
Going on. Yeah, I mean, for some people that's a little bit, for some people that's a lot. So mine is like kind of like early 20s.
Yeah.
30 max.
For you and Anno.
Yeah, both of us.
All right.
I feel like we're conservative.
That's conservative.
You know,
That's pretty conservative.
but then the other day I went and we didn't buy, like, it wasn't like we did a big bulk shop
Yeah.
or anything. We were empty. We bought stuff, and a lot of this is like tin stuff because we eat a lot of beans and stuff. You know, some frozen stuff, nothing fancy. Vicky buys all the fancy stuff, but we don't, like, you know, 50 grand.
Yeah.
Wow.
And I was like, oh my God, like we both look at each other and we're like, what the hell? Like, you know, like, and then I went to, you know, I've decided that now that I'm in gym again, I need to like try and eat healthy. And I
It's
don't
expensive
consolidate.
to
I
eat
went to the
healthy.
market.
Yeah.
One pawpaw, one pineapple, and 2 lemon is like,
4
like,
grand.
yeah, 4 grand.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
Do you get the fair skin tax at the market?
I didn't think so.
The
I mean,
what?
The fair skin tax.
What's the fair skin
The
tax?
fair skin tax is the look at you with your gold chain and tight pants and they're like, this is where you got paid.
no, but you see the car I drive, bro. It's not like, you know, I wind down the window and I'm like, hey, what's going on? I leg up on her, and it's like, yeah, 1,000. You want 1,000 or 1,500? I say, bro, you gotta bring the 1,000.
But here's a question: is it that the cost to, you know, grow these fruits and pick them and get them to the market, is
No,
it more
I
expensive?
think
Farmers
it's
aren't
the
just-
middleman.
It's
arbitrary?
the middleman.
I think it's the
Absolutely.
middleman. Yeah,
Absolutely.
Because I think if we bought directly from the farmers, it would be way cheaper. Which is, I'm like, and the middleman business in terms of in produce is huge.
Yeah.
But it's more than one middleman,
It's
right?
probably more middlemen than they got
Yeah.
farmers.
Yeah.
When I was so
You-
when
I
I
mean,
was
you
in
told me,
yeah,
but
when I was in
coconut-
Pomeroon,
the coconut value chain is like 5-6
crazy.
layers. Yeah.
When you know we had we were also growing plantains and bananas on the farm, and the farm gate price for bananas was $25 a pound. The farm gate price. This
And
is
by
what
the time you
farmers
get
get,
to-
and by the time you get to Georgetown, you're somewhere around $200-300 a pound. So the you know all the value is getting eaten up
Yeah.
in the middle there, and the farmers aren't actually seeing it, you know? So, I mean, like, when I see somebody, when you're driving up to Berbice and saying you see somebody on the corner of the road with a stand in front of the house and they're selling mangoes, absolutely I'll patronize them, and whatever they ask for, I pay them. I'm not going to bargain with them, I'm not going to haggle with them, because that's from their backyard, and, you know, they climb the tree and whatever it is.
Yeah.
But I think some of the, and it's not just the fruit vendors, man. People in this country just taking advantage right now. I think there's a lot of price gouging that's happening because we are seeing a lot more disposable income, because there's a lot more jobs from the oil and gas sector. There's a lot more foreigners in the country. And I think people are just putting on a little markup. COVID screwed us. When prices went up during COVID, they never came back down. Nobody really realizes that, because I think a lot of I think that the market was stress tested, is they jacked the price up as far as possible to see how much people were willing to pay for a roll of Bounty, and, you know, not knocking Bounty or Bounty's distributors, but using it as an example, the price really never went back down, because people said, well, they paid it then, they could pay it now. And that COVID had global shockwaves in terms of, you know, price, but we've got that, you know, then now we've got, you know, what's happening with oil and gas. And, you know, it can't be denied, and we can't just stick our head in the sand and say it's not happening. But cost of living is going up. You know, rents have gone up, food bills has gone up.
Yeah.
Just general cost to live in Guyana.
I want to talk about rent because, like, last time I think we spoke, I don't know if it was on here or not, but we were talking and you were like, "Oh yeah, it's a bubble. It can come down soon."
I've
And, you
been,
know,
I've been
still-
hearing that for
Yeah.
5 years now, 5-6 years.
Yeah, but it's funny to see the stuff that they put up for rent. You know
Oh,
what I mean?
Lord.
Like it's almost like yeah, this 200,000. You know,
Just call in price.
and it's really like, and I think like also if you look at the type of, and I'm not trying to be snobby or you know highfalutin, but if you look at just something as like interior decor, right? You giving me like we call the laminate floors, and half of it kind of off on the wall, and then the wall dingy, and they got big rusty grill inside,
Yeah.
and a burner stove.
yeah.
you know, and
A column right in the middle.
but I'm not
Something-
knocking how
yeah.
some people live. I'm just saying, like, you know, nobody's paying that for that. You know, like it never leaves the market, but the prices.
That's
it
a
never,
question.
Yeah.
Like, does anybody ever, okay, you put a property up on the market and you call your ideal price? Is anybody actually paying that? And then what?
I think
You
maybe
leave it for
like
3 months,
4
6
years.
months, and then do they ever like drop the price? And
I don't think so because
Because, like,
you always see it still available.
I visit some of these like real estate web pages and whatnot, and I'm pretty sure I'm seeing the same properties from a year or two ago still being listed. So it's like they're not backing down.
Yeah.
Like they're holding on for this price. I don't know
I
if
think
they're being
everybody
advised, to
has
hold out
this.
for your price or what. But
I think everybody has this dream that they're going to put up this apartment building and rent it to Exxon for 4,000 amount per apartment. But when you look at number one, you can't price yourself out of the neighborhood that you're building in. You have to wait for the rest of the neighborhood to build up. That's one. Second of all, when you want those kinds of rents, you have to provide a certain quality of build. I know one person that built and they had to rip out their steps because the steps were too narrow. They had to raise their kitchen cabinets because they were too low.
But people also don't know that Exxon and these companies come with tons of standard.
oh yeah,
Well, this
You
is
know,
the
like-
third part that I was going to talk about is landlords being responsible and looking after. When your plumbing isn't working, you got to take care of it. When the electrical isn't working, you got to take care of it. When the air conditioning isn't working, you got to take care of it. Property management at that level, it's not just putting up the building and saying, hey, come and rent it. The after sales of it is what really gets more tenants in. And a lot of people aren't prepared and they complain about it. They complain that, the tenant complaining about this. Bruds, that's part of the service as a landlord. I'm pretty sure it's Guyana law that there are certain things you're absolutely responsible for. So I'm not knocking anybody trying to make a living putting up their apartment buildings, but what I'm saying is that landlords really need to have some responsibility and just provide basic services. Just provide basic services, But anyway, yeah.
Yeah. No, and even like that, like the last place I lived in, it was an apartment in like, I lived in like Commons Lodge, Sophia adjacent.
Sophia. You lived in Sophia. No, I mean, there's
No,
nothing
yeah,
wrong
yeah,
with
yeah.
that. You lived in
No,
Sophia.
I did. I mean, it was like on the border, and I really liked my building. It was like, it was quite a tall building. I was like on the third floor. It was obviously just steps, so it was kind of like real annoying to fetch water and groceries up. But like we really enjoyed it. My wife
you
and I.
didn't need gym as much then.
No, I didn't. And we used to call it Manhattan because we were like the tallest unit in the area, and we could see everything. And
New Year's Day was a lot of fun when we went.
Yeah,
Or
yeah,
New Year's night
yeah, it
when
was,
we
right?
the fireworks.
and it was the unit we had was, in my opinion, the best unit, right?
Yeah.
And in all fairness to my landlord, they were very accommodating. They were any problems we had, they would address it very quickly. They weren't perfect, but they made an effort. But the thing is, the contractor who built the building, and this is the reason we had to move, is that we just constantly had water problems over and over. Like water wouldn't come. We wake up in the morning, no water. We can't go to work, whatever. And one day while we were away, a pipe, our pipe in our shower just busted.
Just exploded.
Exploded and flooded the whole apartment. And then subsequently flooded the whole building because we were on the third
Right.
floor. So we coming home to water cascading off the third floor. It's like Kite Shore Falls there. And what happened is that when they did the plumbing, they casted the plumbing into the building and then ran it out the side. And then the piping inside the building burst open. So now it was just a total.
There's no way of locking it off because it's.
So they had to break out, and it was a total crap show,
Yeah.
But like and they went through tons of plumbers, but the guy who did the plans did it, and then like I guess they just threw it away or whatever. I don't know who was responsible for the blueprint, but they
So-
had no idea where things were running.
When you start talking about contractors in this country, I mean, I think that's a good segue into something I want to talk about because I'm building right now, and the truth of the matter is, I was able to I go and check my builders' work every single day. You know, I see what they're doing, I see how they're doing it, and I was able to pick up on certain things. If you see how some contractors build in this country, brother, you wouldn't go into buildings. You just wouldn't go inside because the construction skill is not there. What you're seeing is a lot of tradesmen who maybe you're a good plumber. You're trying to be a contractor. So he's going to come to you and say, yeah, man, I can install your plumbing. And y'all are going to agree on a price and you're going to agree on a time frame. And he's going to drop off 3 youngsters who probably seen him do what he got to do. And, you know, they will do what they think is the right thing to do. You're not checking it because you're at work all day. You probably got maybe once a week, twice a week. You can leave your job, go up to the site and see the progress. But the fact of the matter is the tradesmen that are trying to be contractors, they don't actually, you know, the people that they have on the ground don't actually know what they're doing. And certification of contractors has to be a conversation that we're having in this country.
Do we have that though?
Of course we have it, but, and this is probably something we can talk about next is enforcement. There's no enforcement of the laws because we're trying to get jobs out to everybody, and I'm all for that. But as you know, especially in public works contracts, the people that are getting these contracts or applying for these contracts, they should have some basic understanding of construction, you know. But it's terrifying seeing. I mean, it's care boy. I ain't knocking the hustle. I'm all for people getting jobs and opportunities. But the right opportunities have to go to the right people, not necessarily just because you applied for it that you.
But then, how do you get around that then? Because you know the people with capacity are usually the ones with money, you know, or have well-established business, and then you just say, oh well, the government is only looking out for like the rich people or the people who are well off. You know, how do you fill the gaps? I mean, how do you fill the gaps?
Train.
Who's training them? Government can't train people.
Yeah, man. We got TVET. We got.
GTA?
Yep, we got training happening. You know,
But TVET is a good one
I think TVET's a great
for
one.
sure. But
Great one.
you know, yeah.
There's 2 parts of it, Alex. There's the first part where we just share in contract left and right because you applied for it. But the second part, which is the more dangerous part, is the state engineer that's supposed to come and check the work. Unfortunately, isn't doing his job, and you know he can be convinced to allow a certain standard of work to pass. And, you know, again, with public works contracts, not just because it's taxpayer money, but the type of work that's being done, roads and bridges and these sorts of things. When these things fail, you're putting the public at risk, you know? So I don't know, man. There definitely needs to be some improvement in the enforcement of the licensing and bonding of contractors to make sure we got the right people doing the right work. You know, and not just a free for all.
Every now and again, you see like a public showing of like, you know, one of the government officials coming and pulling up somebody and making a spectacle of it.
And then they get another contract.
Yeah.
A month after.
Yeah. I mean, I guess it's just to quell the population, you know. It's interesting though. I mean, I know a lot of people in construction who have no business being there. Sad to say. I mean, I'm not knocking them. I am, I guess. They
I
know
also
nothing
know
about
people who
construction.
went into construction not really knowing anything about construction, but maybe hired
But that's what I'm
proper
saying. That's what I'm
engineers
saying.
under them
well,
and did good jobs.
Well, for sure. But the people I know are the ones kind of hiring. Like you said, they're passing it off, but I have no idea who they're passing it off to.
Yeah.
And I mean, I don't even know if that's like but it's like going back to the middleman thing with the market, right? It's like you just got these filler people in there.
The subcontracting where you get a contract, you know, worth $10, and I'm gonna give it to you for $8. Then he's gonna give it to you for $5, and now you have to do a $10 contract for $5 plus make $1 for yourself. You know, what kind of value you really think is going into that contract? And unfortunately, I think we're seeing that with some of the contracts that have not passed mustard. It's because they were handed down. The actual person who won the contract isn't the one working on the site. And I saw Minister Edgehill made a comment about that. And again, you know,
What did he say?
he's warning contractors.
Oh.
He's warning them against it. And again, I think that is probably just a little more rhetoric just to quell the public. But in terms of actual enforcement, I'm not seeing it. You know.
Yeah.
I'm happy for the. And this is the other thing, Alex. When you complain about the condition of the road, what you hear back is, well, yeah, I had road before. You'd walk in on a dam. You must be grateful. You must be grateful for the road. You know, not taking into account, what it's costing per kilometer to build those roads and what value you're getting out of it.
I don't think we get into value for money for sure, but I think like, you know, it's tough to also expect us to go from, you know, 1 or 2 major roads to like all these highways and to get everything perfect. I'm not making excuses. I'm just saying, you know, I think we're in a good spot because we do have more people calling out, you know, bad work. And I think that's good. I think the people who do bad work should feel the pressure and should, you know, be put in a position to do better. While I agree with you, I think like, you know, there will be mistakes, there will be growing pains. They like to say, I know I hate that word.
Yeah.
But I think like there's so many more people on it now. Whether they just want to, whether they're, you know, they're just being crabby about it or their points are legit. You know, I think it's like, you know, the way people use Facebook and all this stuff, it's there for everyone to see, you know? It's not just it shows up there and, oh, you gotta just suck. You gotta just be appreciative for the road.
I believe in standards. I believe that if you're doing something, do it to standard. And if you can't do it to standard, don't do it, you know?
Yeah.
The argument, going back to that, well, we ain't had a road before, that don't pass mustard, brother. You know? You're paying $10 for a $3 road. Now, if you're grateful for that, if you're fine with that, well, then that's you. But I'm not fine with that at all. Yeah?
What do you think about the roads?
I mean,
Roads in general doesn't have to be construction or roads. Just like what's the deal with roads? I mean,
what is the deal?
That's a Seinfeld monologue you're going into now. What's the deal with roads? Yeah, I mean, I gotta agree. There's a fair bit of shoddy work. Also, as you said, you know, people are becoming wise at it now and using social media platforms to highlight what's happening, like that the Cemetery Road project that was going on for so long.
yeah,
Finally finished the other day, and you know, I saw a couple of social media commentators highlighting some deficiencies that have already started to happen.
B-Man.
So, who's B-Man? Francis. Oh, B,
yeah.
like bzz, B.
Yeah.
Oh, not the
B-Man.
letter B.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah,
He's
Francis.
hilarious.
Yeah.
yeah. He does a
Yeah.
good job. He's very creative.
He's
and
hilarious.
He's a very good musician too.
Yeah.
Is he?
Very, very
Plays the
talented
sax.
musician. The
No
sax, the steel pan, the guitar,
Oh, really?
sings, writes, everything.
That's all right.
Very, very, very talented.
Didn't know that.
It'd be nice to get him on actually.
Oh, yeah.
We
Oh, yeah,
talked
for
about
sure.
that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it'd be nice.
He's a big personality, though. You want him on this chair by himself. You know.
Yeah,
I don't think there's room for anybody else.
No, man, we could squeeze somebody in. I mean, whatever. He's
Kian.
either way.
Oh Lord, I would love to see him and Kian on a show. That'd be hilarious.
Yeah, we gotta give a shout out to Kian. Kian, you make the next one, man.
Sorry,
I
Kian.
couldn't bring you in.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I mean, yeah.
Why didn't you have Kian on the show? Because what was it you said? You didn't.
Was that?
Why didn't you have Kian on today's show?
Because you
enough
said you didn't
space
want
on
to
the
talk.
couch.
Yeah, no space on the couch. You said you didn't want to talk politics.
I said I didn't want to talk politics.
Yeah. But I gotta ask y'all, what do you think about Trump winning? I mean, I think that's like, I've spoken to so many people, and I've also, I have a group of college friends, and one person in the group is a Trump guy, the others are
Yeah.
Democrats, whatever. But they're all reasonable people. However, one last night, you know, and obviously last night was the last day of, you know, the polling and whatever and submissions, and you know, he's at the bar like maybe 4 drinks deep and just starts off with the monologue about why Trump is so terrible and all this
Yeah.
stuff. And a lot of it valid, of course, but you know, it's interesting how you hear different perspectives, and I thought it was going to be a real close race, but I'm not surprised that
Kick
How
her
big
ass.
the disparity is.
yeah, because I think
It's
you
looking,
know,
it's looking like a clean sweep too. It's looking like
yeah.
the presidency, the popular vote, the House and the Senate.
Yeah,
Cle-
the
as
fact
clean
that
a
he got
sweep as you
popular
could
vote
get.
is like crazy.
But he flipped a few of them in the
Yeah.
Senate also, and that bears some talking. That there are some people in the Senate that, you know, they just the thing about it is, from my perspective.
What's the Guyanese perspective? Like, what are you guys thinking?
I
Because
still got to wake up and go to work tomorrow,
Yeah,
brother.
that's true.
You know, I mean, in terms of who's in power in the States, that has very, very little actual bearing on what happens to my
on
life
our
tomorrow.
day-to-day life.
In
yeah.
terms of,
but
in
but
terms
neither
of,
neither does it. I mean, sorry to cut you, but there's a lot of people in the U.S. too that also have to go back to living their life.
that's on them, brother.
You know, no, that's what I'm saying. But that's not the conversation we have. The conversation is what, like, I mean,
You think they're worse off? Would they be worse off under Trump?
no. I'm asking you, what were your perceptions going into this? And now that we've sort of come out on the other end, and now we're moving forward with what this is. What was your thought process?
I
My
Where
thought
was it
process
going?
was very much the same like you. I thought it would have been very close. In all the lead up to the elections, I kept hearing that it's going to come down to a couple key swing states, Pennsylvania and that sort of thing. And it ended up being,
Yeah.
a
And
complete...
this isn't even about her being a woman, her being of color.
No.
This is about who was the stronger candidate.
But I think
who-
that conversation alone is what frustrates people too, because I genuinely think that those weren't really the issues people had with her. I think people are just fed up of, and this is my personal qualm. I don't think, by the way, I just putting it out there, I don't think I would have a vote for Trump to be president of anything. Not that I have a problem with the Republicans being in power. You know, Trump doesn't appeal to me personally.
Fair.
However, I felt that, like, when you spend some time online and you kind of just getting all these, the algorithm is working on
Yeah.
you, you're seeing the perspectives. The Democratic side or the liberal view, I could see why people are frustrated by that. I feel like they control all the mainstream media and they're just pushing this agenda on you over and over because they're appealing to their hardcore base. And that's what kills me. It's like there's no middle ground. There's no room for consideration of not being with the tribe and having to be this, and else you're racist or you're sexist or you're,
They pull out the list of all the names they could call you.
right?
Yeah,
And then, but it's crazy. But that being said, I told somebody today, I was speaking with a relative of mine who is a U.S. citizen, and I was saying, as much as I am so disgusted and frustrated with the leftist extremists, the extreme right terrifies me.
It's as bad.
As a non-white
It's
person.
as bad.
Because I'm not saying, the right is racist. I'm just saying the extreme right.
I mean, the extreme on both
Yeah.
sides, would cause you to take a step back and be like, oh, but I don't think they represent the extreme left or right. I don't think they represent the mainstream.
They don't.
But this is
Most
the problem.
people are moderate, center moderate, maybe left leaning, right leaning, but the extreme positions are, as you said, they get the views and the likes, and they get pushed
Yeah.
on social media. The average person is probably not that extreme.
I was checking in last night, Fox News, CNN, and it was amazing how polarizing the media outlets are in terms of who they outright are putting their support behind them.
Up to a couple of years ago, we used to say, well, okay, you're getting with CNN, you're getting with Fox, so do BBC or Al Jazeera.
Yeah.
You're getting the same thing with them now.
Yeah,
I was looking
yeah.
at BBC and Al Jazeera last night, and clearly biased.
Yeah.
Clearly
It's very
biased. So
difficult.
it's hard to get from any mainstream media source. Now it's hard to get. Like, I often tell people, like, I mean, I'm old enough to remember when people just reported. Yeah, I went there. When people just reported the news, they just told you what happened.
this was Key and Field.
When this was just a dam. Now you got a road.
Now you got a road.
But I remember when they just reported the news. They just told you this happened on this day and this time, and they didn't tell you how to feel about it. They
weren't all these pundits coming out to tell you how to think.
You must feel this, and if you don't feel this, you're this, and
Yeah.
But
Just
when you
people
have
were
a-
able to draw their own conclusions.
But this is why people also have moved away from mainstream media, and in a way, it's like, I guess it's just the system balancing itself, right? But like they're moving towards like podcasts and influencers to get their information
Who's
because
the most popular?
Rogan.
Rogan, yeah.
and
I like
and again,
And it's mainstream
I'm
media.
not a Trump fan, but I
gave
sat
rise to
down
that.
and listened to the whole Trump and Rogan. I was in the gym and I was just in the
Yeah.
background and I'm like cracking up. I like, it was just like,
Yeah.
again, don't agree with a lot of the policies Republicans are coming. I can't stress that enough. You know, the whole abortion thing and whatever. But like, just as a person to listen to, it's like you don't get that from politicians. You know, you don't. Even our politicians here, it's like to get them in an environment where they're not selling you something.
Yeah.
You know, it's just this is just a conversation. You know, and I'm not saying you should vote for somebody because you could just relate to them and that's perfect and all good, but that's just something that's missing, that you just don't trust people anymore.
One of the things I think the Dems lost is that they were trying to get people who hated Trump to hate him more. And
Yeah.
they missed out on that entire middle ground with the moderates, who ended up just looking to the stronger person, who happened to be Trump, who was going, these are my issues. And every single rally, every single meeting, every single conversation, he would hammer it into the ground. These are the issues that I'm going behind. And if you watch enough of
It was
his...
two things. It was two issues, basically. It was illegal immigration and the economy.
Yeah, immigration
That's
and
it.
economy.
Yeah.
That's basically it.
Yeah.
And I don't think any favors were done to the Democrats with the 2 assassination attempts.
Yeah.
I think that played into it.
But you gotta
The
al-
imagery of the.
But
you know,
that's what I'm saying. You
the
also
fist
you
in
gotta
the air
remember,
and all of that,
America
yeah.
is a screenplay.
Oh,
It's a
yeah.
constantly written screenplay, right?
Yeah.
Like whatever they are, the show must go on.
Of course.
You know, and I think like however you can package whatever has happened and sell it to people. That's what the U.S. is, and I love it but hate it. You know, it's like it just grabs our attention, and they're the best at it.
We're not seeing the issues-based politics, though. You know, dare say I use Guyana as an example. We're not seeing it there either. You know, I'm not seeing.
Sorry, to cut you quickly. I think one of the biggest parallels I see is that people, and this is why I like doing this, is people just refuse to reach out. The politicians here don't reach out to the middle ground either.
No.
There's so many young people who can be convinced if you met them on issues that weren't just, traditional, we've done all of this for you, or we're going to do all of this for you, and appealing to hardcore base. Nobody's look at how many young people are going to be voting this year.
Yeah.
Look at how many
Voters,
people have been away and seen the world and are coming back to contribute again and are now in the voting population. Look at all the people who are not jaded by politics but are going to come out this year and cast their vote. And it's like, I haven't seen much of that at all, and to me it's like worrying. I feel like, we have so much opportunity, and I think people are the politicians especially are just like afraid to give away too much because, they don't want to. They're just holding their cards to their chest,
But if you catch them one-on-one, I mean, there's some of them, if you catch them one-on-one, they would sit down and chat issues all day. But when they go on the pulpit, when they go mainstream, it's one broad message that they send out, and they're losing, like you said, they're losing that entire middle ground of people that want to hear, well, how are you fixing this issue? How are you solving this? I don't want to hear that the last guy did it worse and remember how bad it was with them. I want to hear, what is your plan for the future? How do you plan to fix this? But also, Alex, admission that there is a problem. And this is something that we absolutely refuse to do. We refuse to say, this is an issue, this needs to get fixed. A lot of the things we just stick our head in the sand and we pretend that it isn't happening. And if we come out and say, man, this isn't good enough, they say you're bashing the government, or you remember when we were at breakfast, you said, one of the things you said is, we got to be careful that we're not Guyana bashing, that when we come on the show that we're not Guyana bashing. You used that phrase, and that struck a chord with me. And I'll tell you why.
Tell me.
I'm 43 this year, and I've lived through an attempted a rigged election in '85. We've lived through floods. We've lived through blackouts. We've lived through riots, political persecution from my family going back. I've earned the right to criticize, my friend. I by virtue of still being here and still fighting the battle and still doing the right thing and still trying to have some principles, I've absolutely earned the right to criticize. Who doesn't have the right to criticize is the newly found Guyana citizens who just remember that the great grandmother is half Guyanese and they coming back here to collect the passport, and they're complaining that they got to wait 4 hours in the passport office to get their passport and things should be better. You just reach here, brother man. You don't have a foot to stand on to criticize. The other people who I do not believe have a right to criticize are Combaki Guyanese, who, sorry to say this, are the absolute worst. They come off the plane with their fake accent. Oh God, this heat. How do you deal with this heat? And then they just criticize every single thing about the country, not having been here for the time that we've been here, dealing with it the entire time, So I mean, look, brother man, if we've been here the entire time, warring it and dealing with it every day, and we plan on staying here, for the foreseeable future, God forbid, something terrible happens. I was just telling Vicky that I couldn't imagine myself living and working and integrating myself into another culture at this point in my life. I don't think it could happen. If I was to leave this country, it would be to migrate, and it would be to retire in Medellin, Colombia, or somewhere like that, where, But in terms of going back into a workforce in a new culture, it would be extremely difficult for me to do that at this point in my life. So I'm here for the foreseeable future, and it is on that basis that I can criticize. I can say, look, man, this shit ain't right, and we need to do better. We need to do better. Not the politicians need to do better. We need to do better. Yeah?
Yeah. No, for sure. I mean, yeah. And that's the thing, right? It's like, again, I kind of got to be like circumspect about how I say this, but I think there's a culture where politicians are revered as gods, right?
Gods.
And when, when somebody fart in public and you smell it, the politicians got to do something about it. The government got to do something about it.
Yeah.
So
It's big brother syndrome.
yeah,
Is that what it's called?
Yeah, big brother syndrome, where the government is the cure-all for everything.
but the government at the same time doesn't do themselves much favors because they obviously benefit a ton from that. So like we're in this vicious cycle
Yeah.
of like, obviously the government knows they can't fix every problem that Guyanese have brought on themselves and refuse to change, right? But at the same time, they know that that's also the biggest bargaining chip, because when they need the support, they will fix that problem that they're not supposed to fix, and then they get to take credit for it.
Yeah.
So it's like it's such a vicious cycle, and it's like, how do you sort of come out of that? Every day, like I kind of have to limit my time online because it's just everything is the government this and the government that. Creatives, I talk about this all the time, and I'm like, I guess in the industry, right? You could ask Vicky. Like this is like a big topic of conversation. It's like we have sort of started our video production company, and the government, like there's so many people in the arts who's like, the government needs to provide more opportunities for us and the creatives, and the government, what they have to do is deal with IP laws, and protect intellectual property and protect your art. But the government can't provide markets for you. You gotta like you have to convince people, whether it's the government or the private sector mostly, why your skill needs to be, why they need you. Why they need you, and they'll pay you for
you
value
gotta
that you're going to
demonstrate
provide.
value.
100%.
You gotta
And that's
demonstrate
not just,
value.
that's business, And so I think like we conflate a lot of these things, we just don't necessarily know how to do business. And it's a growing thing because even in the beginning, we kind of didn't even know where to start. But you gotta like take risk. You gotta look at failure, and every day, buddy, I think we can fail. I have no idea where the next job is coming from, but that's like entrepreneurship. That's business.
That's how it is.
And another thing is like, we kind of bitch and complain about, oh, it's Guyana, you gotta know somebody. Everywhere you gotta know somebody, to some extent. It's not knowing somebody because they're gonna do you a big favor and give you riches. It's knowing you have to network yourself, and you have to convince somebody that you're the real deal.
I'll give an example. You talk about know somebody, and this is something I want to talk about. I was trained by my grandmother and my father to use the system that's there. You don't call in favors until you're back against the wall and rain pouring on your head, and then you just pick up the phone and call in a favor. So I was trying to get something done at one of the government offices, and I said, you know what? I can go through the motions. Took in my paperwork, Handed it to the guy. The guy said, come back in a week and a half. Went back in a week and a half. When you go to the office, there's no discernible order as to who came first or who came second. It's just a bunch of people sitting in the office waiting to talk to this guy. The guy doesn't actually come to work until about 10:30, 11 o'clock in the day. And, even if he does come, so you're literally sitting there every single day. And this went on for approximately 6 weeks. This went on until I was sitting in the office one day, and I asked one of the other people if he's coming in, and they said no. And I asked, well, is his boss, is the senior guy coming in? And they said yes. I said, you know what? I'm gonna bring this to him, and sat there and waited. I think he trotted in the office maybe like around 11 o'clock in the day. I missed my daughter's prize giving. Jenna did very, very well at CXE. She got 10 grade ones and 7 distinctions. Brightest Kissoon so far, eh? And I missed her prize giving because just as he walked in, like my turn was coming up to go and see him, and walked in his office to inquire about the status of what needed to get done. And, I was going to sit down, and he said, no, don't sit down, this ain't gonna take long. And I said, well, I've got this. He says to me, don't sit down, it's not gonna take long. So I said to him, I've got this paperwork pending. I'm just want to know what the status of it is. When can I come back? Because I've been back and forth and I'm hearing different things. And, the guy told me it would take a week and a half. He already came and, he did his groundwork. It's just a matter of getting the thing printed out. And he says, well, he's not here. And his secretary's not here. So he doesn't know what's happening. So I said, well, can't you pick up the phone and call him and just ask him, when I should come back? The guy looks at his phone, looks at me, and says, no, there's nothing I can do. You gotta come back on Monday. And I put my head down and I said to myself, yeah, there is something I can do. And I walked out, and there was an auntie sitting in the chair next to me. She was working with the GDF in Takama, at the Takama base. Catch a bush truck at 4 o'clock in the morning to go to Five Corner Junction to catch a bus to come down to meet this guy. And I was gaffing with her the whole time. And I said, Auntie, you really don't get anywhere in this country unless you know a minister or a PS. And Auntie said, son, some of us don't have that luxury. And she went in her purse. And in her purse, she had a little plastic bag, went in her little plastic bag, and she took out a note. And she folded it up, and she crumpled it, and she put it in her hand, waiting to go in and see the gentleman. So what I did is, as I left the office, I picked up the phone. I called the minister who was in charge of that particular office, and I said, Skipper, we got to talk. We got to talk because what's happening here in this office is completely unacceptable, and something has to be done about it. Needless to say, this happened on a Friday. I got my paperwork the Monday after having picked up the phone and spoken to the minister. Now, where I'm going with this, there's a big, big difference between picking up the phone and calling a minister and telling him your staff is fucking up, and even before I wait the 6 weeks, picking up the phone and calling a minister and saying, hey, take care of this thing for me. Mm-hmm. Therein lies the difference, Everybody I complain to about tells me one of 3 things. That's how things are. This is Guyana. You gotta play the game. And, it goes against all principles that you taught from birth. You go to play school, do the right thing, be a good boy. You go to high school, do the right thing, be a good boy. You go to church, do the right thing, be a good boy. You go to lodge, do the right thing, be a good boy. You get into business, boy, you gotta play the game. Why is it those common principles don't apply to business and we have to play the game? Myself and one of my best friends had a big blowout about that the other day. And I told him, I said 2 things. I said, brother, when you play the game, you put a stone on the wrong side of the scale. And I bet you the next time you go back, you're going to have to put 2 stones on that side of the scale. And eventually, there's not going to be enough on this side to balance the scale out. You're literally making it worse for yourself the next time around. And when we as Guyanese start to see things 5 years, 10 years, 15 years into the future, as opposed to getting rich next month and buying the Prado and, flashing on Facebook. That's when you're going to see some sort of cultural change. But I feel sometimes I'm in the minority, just trying to be principled and trying to do the right thing and talking to people laughing at me saying, "Buddy, you got to play the game." Because they making money, not today, playing the game. I begin to feel like I'm becoming the minority. And when I speak out against it, people are like, "Well, stay poor."
Like, where do you draw the line? Are you talking about ministers? Are you talking about people in power that you shouldn't call? You should go through the system. I mean, sometimes the system doesn't even exist.
Oh no, we
know,
have
like-
systems for everything. They're just either broken beyond repair, or they are set up to frustrate and
Well,
induce,
well,
That would have been
okay.
my question to you.
and
Like-
induce a payment.
Like how much of a factor is it? Like is it the system is intentionally set up that way? Can you make a broad statement like that the system is
That's my thing, because if you go into GRA, right?
because there are some systems that work. I could tell you for a fact, getting your driver's license now
Yeah.
in 2024
Yeah.
is the easiest thing, and I've
Legitimately
spoken to
getting
people-
it?
Legitimately getting.
Okay.
No, I don't mean like from the start. Renewing a driver's license.
Yeah.
My mom and I did it earlier this year. Or later.
It's
real
walk in,
fast.
walk
Like,
out.
It's real
walk in,
Walk in,
walk
walk
out.
out.
Faster than
It's real
anytime.
fast, yeah. I did it the other day.
Yeah, so there are some systems
But
that
the
work.
leadership at
But
GRA
my question
is a little
why,
different.
Why are some systems seemingly set up to frustrate, whereas others are like
I think GRA is a good example.
you got
The
efficient-
capacity at the
you got
top of
efficient
GRA.
and inefficient systems.
The
within
capacity at the
GRA.
top of GRA is bar none. They got some real bright men there, and they have some very good people managers there. In some of the other government offices and public offices, I'm finding two types of managers. I'm finding either dinosaurs who've been grandfathered in, who have come with their bad ways, and this is how things are, and this is what you gotta do to get things done. Or you got political appointees who don't actually know what they're doing, and they just get a cushy job and they sit on it and pretend to know what they're doing. I'm making a broad statement here, and this is probably going to rub a lot of people the wrong way, but and I'm sure there's a lot of hardworking public servants that do what they're supposed to do. But I've had some terrible experiences in the past couple of months, dealing with the construction and stuff like that. Where I see systems that are broken, and I have to end up picking up the phone, calling a senior public official and saying, "Brother, this is what's happening. This needs to be fixed. Can you fix this?"
And then does it get fixed?
And obviously, you get a call from
So
the
then
minister, the PS.
it's fixable issues.
Of course it's fixable issues. Of course it's fixable issues. But it's seemingly that the system is set up to frustrate. The systems are there, you
But how do you have a system like that and then sort of convince people that, we're going to move into the 21st century at some point? How does that? And then also, that's heavily a cultural thing as well. How people operate. They have a locked-in job in mostly the public sector, and they don't really have to do much in their day-to-day to collect their salary. But then also, we have, and everybody knows we have a massive human resource issue here in Guyana. And then,
it's getting worse.
It's getting worse. And then there's also this issue of, if we import more workforce, then we're taking all the opportunity away from Guyanese, and we're putting strain on the system. So what's the solution there? I mean, how do you sort of compromise, or how do you move forward from here? You just sort of, it's like the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and expecting different results, right? Like we're not seeing it. It's not that it's not getting better, but it's not getting better nearly fast enough to keep up with all the development that we're supposed to be going through.
We got to fix the migration problem. People are still leaving in droves, and the more money people make now, and they have the ability to travel, and they see what life is like in other countries, it encourages migration.
Would you tell your kids to leave? I mean, if they
Would I
had
tell them to
no,
leave?
no, if they had an opportunity, abroad, would you convince them to stay? Sorry.
No, I don't force my kids into anything. I don't. They're able to make their own decisions, and if that's their decision, well then that's that. But if they themselves can see incentives to living here or staying here, well then they'll stay. Everybody, and this is where I'm going with it, as opposed to having this big drive to bring Guyanese back and bring capacity back. I think we need to do more to encourage capacity to stay here. And the educated and the entrepreneurs and the ones that are really performing in the public sector, we need to find different ways to incentivize them and just try to lock them down. I don't see it happening. I see them throwing a broad net over the public sector. Don't get me started with the police force, because they're getting another pay increase at the end of this year for doing all every single day. You and your noise nuisance situation. You told Alex about that?
No, we can get to that.
Yeah. The enforcement on the roads, the roadways it's unbelievable. I thought tint was illegal. I saw a banner with tinted number plates the other day. Tinted windscreens. And they're just driving by up and down, and the law says tint is illegal. But where's the enforcement? Yeah?
Well, there's constant tint campaigns, but it doesn't do anything.
A tint campaign is an opportunity for police to go on the road and shake you down for $5,000 and send you on your way and say, don't let me see you again, or, all right, brother, good to see you. That they love tint campaigns. They love any campaign. But why do you have a campaign if it's the law? If it's the law, this is something you should be enforcing every single day. Motorcyclists wear helmets. That's the law. Yeah. You shouldn't have a campaign to enforce that. That should be something that's enforced every single day. But you're not seeing that enforcement. You're not, the running of the traffic lights. Every single day you're seeing it. You
remember there was a time when one guy used to beat the red light?
String of them now.
3, 4, 5
on the inside,
just
on the outside.
Beating the light.
Oh no, the latest thing on our roadways, and Alex, the roadways are a very, very good example of how gets normalized, and you being the one complaining against it becomes the outlier and the crazy one. And the latest thing,
I've noticed that too.
Is
like I feel like a lunatic. I feel like a lunatic when I get angry at someone for cutting me off. Or running through the light. Or
the latest thing now is when you stop on the lane, in the middle of the lane, put your hazard lights on, and then go and do your business, blocking an entire lane of traffic so you can go and do what you have to do. That has now become normalized. And everybody now is going to drive around them and drive around them and drive around them. Now, my thing on that is, and I embarrass my daughter every morning in the car. Janice be like ducking her head because I is wind down the window and upbraid them. But the thing about it is, you not yelling at the man will drive around them because it's not affecting you today. But let me tell you something.
It's not necessarily that it's not affecting you today. It's just that you got to stop and wind on your window 10 times until you get to your destination.
I agree.
And sometimes you just got to say, you know what? Not today.
And
can I just share a quick story just on that? And I'm sorry to cut you.
Yeah.
But just on that point, right? So a couple years ago, I told myself, I've experienced the height of road rage, right? Because we've been like this for a long time as a culture. And I used to whine on and cuss up and shout, and I don't do that anymore because, well, I drive a Toyota Ipsum, bro. It's not the most like...
A what?
A soccer mom van, essentially.
Is that a real car?
It's a real car.
Bro, he's drive by Marion and panties fall off.
He drives by a high school?
Well, but
what's wrong with you?
The mother's picking up anyway. You missed the analogy.
No, so I stopped road raging. But the other day, a bus is driving next to me in the bike lane, obviously on the shoulder, on Sheriff Street.
You saw that altercation they had with
the
cyclist, and that was crazy.
We get to that. But so I'm in the lane. He's in the bike lane, right? He overtakes me, whatever. Just go ahead. I don't care. He's signaling left and then turns right. And I'm obviously going straight. So I nearly T-bone him.
Yeah.
So I slam on the brakes and I'm like my heart skipped a beat, right? I felt like I had a heart attack. And this feeling of anger came over me. And I wind down the window. It's a minibus.
Shocking.
Yeah. I wind down the window as I'm driving past him, and I don't curse. I say, "Bana, what's going on, man? Like you signaling that way, and you turn, and I literally you can kill
He
somebody."
cuss you back.
You know what his man tell me? Shut your effing so and so.
Yeah.
You ain't know. And the words that came out of my mouth after
Yeah.
were very nasty and hurtful. And I think like
You didn't hurt him, I guarantee you.
I know.
What?
You
I
hurt
know.
yourself.
But
You hurt
this is
yourself.
the thing, right? This is the thing. What I said to him was so disgusting, right? Because I wanted to hurt him so bad
Yeah.
because he hurt me
Yeah.
and also did me nearly kill me on the road. But then as Vicky, she was there. But as soon as I said it, I was like,
Wow.
I can bleed this out, right? But I said, can't use a or
yeah.
and I as soon as those words came out of my mouth, I was like, oh my God.
Can't believe you said
Imagine somebody heard me say that or
Yeah.
videoed me saying that.
Yeah.
Or if I said that and you know, just what I said made me feel horrible.
Yeah.
You know, and by the way, after I said this, he told me he can kill me and chop me up, whatever. At which point I was just like, I didn't even know what to think, right? So I'm driving away. Huh? Yeah, and it was the conductor, it wasn't even the driver. But I just realized that there is no winning. And like
Because we've normalized the behavior.
we've normalized it so much that we
Everybody sees
everything
them
is now
driving like that.
self-destructive.
Alex, people like you and me are the minority. We're the complete outliers now. Because we're going to observe the traffic lights. We're going to...
Yeah.
I make this point a lot. Okay, we get it. The roads are small. There's an insane amount of cars on the road. People jostling for parking, for space, and that sort of. By the way, was it 10,000 vehicles in 4 months?
Is that what it was?
Yeah,
Lord.
PAG took 4 months, which is
Yeah.
insane to me. But we get that. That is the reality, right? Why is it me or you? If we're going to park somewhere, we will.
Look for parking.
And if I can't get parking right where I need to be, I can drive 2-3 blocks away.
Circle.
You know? Or you know what I do sometimes? Sometimes I just park so far away and walk. Or sometimes if it's, a 10-15 minute walk, I don't even bother drive from home. I just walk. And then if I need to park somewhere, I'll make sure that I'm completely off the road. You see too many people now, when they park, it's like they just make one lock, straighten the back, or wherever they land, that's it.
Yeah.
They don't care if half the car on the road or if the back's sticking out. And the road's already narrow. I live in Barrack Street, Kingston, and it's now...
Kingston isn't what it was,
it's
brother.
crazy.
We both grew up in
It's
Kingston.
fully
Yeah.
commercialized. Now,
Yeah.
during the day, it's just traffic,
And there's nothing
cars.
wrong with commercialization. There's absolutely nothing wrong with it. If that's the direction the neighborhood is going, that's the direction the neighborhood is going. But in terms of, not to cut your TW, but in terms of when you pull in the corner and you park off the line, you do it for two reasons. Reason number one is the law. Reason number two,
It's
you're
just the right
generally
thing to do.
considerate
Considerate.
of other drivers on
That's
the
the
road.
point of getting at.
The drivers that we have are completely inconsiderate of
Not just
anybody
drivers,
else.
Not just drivers. The point I was building at is that there's a general culture of being inconsiderate.
Was
just
for me.
just
Was
me.
for me.
Me.
Yeah.
So I see a spot there I could fit in. I don't care if half my car out on the road and I causing a massive build up of traffic. Because that's what happens. The roads are narrow. So there's already an effort for two cars to fit through on an unencumbered road. Now imagine that guy now that's going to park there with a little bitty back sticking out onto the road. It's causing a pile up of traffic, and it happens every single
But
day.
even if you're
in every road
Yeah.
in Georgetown.
But even if you're the guy in the line, though, like even if you're in a line, right,
Mm-hmm.
and you got the guys zipping by you to bottleneck it up at the intersection and
Mm-hmm.
make things worse.
Yeah.
Even if you're just the loser in the line sitting to wait your
Yeah.
turn, you now have to be on the alert for the guys who are deciding to jump back in the line in front of you. Because
or the ones that blazing up from behind and clip your mirror and just continue going.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So it's like even if you're doing the right thing, your anxiety is skyrocketed
Alex,
without any benefit.
Yeah.
Alex,
You know what I mean?
there's something I say all the time. Doing the right thing in Guyana and being a decent, considerate person, it really has to be something you want to do because there is no benefit to it.
Yeah.
There's nothing that accrues positively other than that intrinsic feeling of, yeah, I'm doing the right thing. Because you do the right thing and people will steamroll you.
Yeah.
You follow the law, you try to be decent, you try to be considerate, nobody cares. Everybody will just steamroll you.
The analogy of the roadways and being considerate, it also applies to business. When you now become the minority by being principled and trying to do the right thing, you become the minority, and people sometimes feel that they get steamrolled in business by trying to do the right thing because they're seeing everybody else driving in the bike lane and getting by. But we, in terms of the roadways, it needs to start with us. It needs to start with the drivers on the road being just a little more considerate of everybody else, and that's I don't see that happening.
Like it shouldn't even.
I don't see that
like a lot
happening.
of things I think shouldn't even be about fear of the law, fear of being fined or jailed or what. Whatever happened to just doing something because it's the right thing to do, the decent thing to do? I mean, are we that far gone that we wouldn't do something unless there is a penalty attached to it?
But look at all the accidents that happen. You see, every time I see a gruesome accident and you see one of these cameras catch it,
Yeah.
you're at the accident, and when somebody's mutilated on the road, somebody's there, a crowd is there with a phone.
Yeah.
They're trying to throw it up on Facebook.
I
so they
don't
can
necessarily think that's the Guyanese thing. I
No,
think
no,
that's
it's not.
the new age.
I mean,
That's
it's not. But neither is inconsidered driving. You could find that in other places too. But what I'm saying is that the first response is just this sort of. It's just part of the disgustingness of it, right?
When
Well,
last you,
why is it not in me though? Why is it not in you too, to be like that? What's different? I often ask that question, and I haven't been provided with a satisfactory answer.
Well, first of all, I would like to say that I'm not a perfect person either, in the sense that like sometimes I've never not done something illegal. I don't do it. Like that's not my go-to. I always stay in the line and whatever. But I guess I wouldn't put myself on the pedestal. What I'm trying to say is I find myself fighting the urge to not do what everybody else is doing every day. And sometimes I lose.
Definitely a struggle.
Sometimes I lose.
Yep.
But I guess the reason is just, man, like I for me at least, so many people I know have been killed on the road. Like,
yeah.
I know so many people, not necessarily friends of mine, but like people just who in society who have killed people on the road. And, I was sitting down talking to a friend the other night about this. I said that, in Guyana, if you're a betting man, the odds of doing anything illegal and not being reprimanded are so good in your favor
Yeah.
that there's no way you can't do it.
Because there's no enforcement.
No, 100%. But this is why the culture is the way it is. It's like, because, like when I feel confident, just me as a person, forget any connections or whatever. Maybe I have minute connections, but I have a good chance of killing somebody and getting off. Or
By virtue of who you know, or just by virtue of lack of enforcement?
both.
Yeah.
By virtue of the system is so bad, I could mess it up somewhere and it defaults into a mistrial or, not
Oh,
sufficient
don't even
evidence.
get me started there.
So the odds are great for me.
Yeah.
And why wouldn't I? Why wouldn't I do that? Because I can use it to get ahead. And you can't, and if you have everybody doing it, you can't, it's becoming harder and harder to convince everyone else not to. I'm not saying it's right. I'm just saying, to your question, I don't know. I don't know. Sometimes I fear like, and a question I ask myself every day on the road is, how long is it going to take before I succumb and just turn into one of them?
Yeah.
That's what I ask
Yeah,
myself.
I battle with it too. Every day you try to do, you try to do the right thing. Everybody else around you just flying past you, just steamrolling you. At some point,
and when the police
yeah.
catches you, what are you gonna say? Well, everybody else doing it. No, but you got caught.
No, yeah, you just the
But
one
look,
that
and
got
there's
caught,
the odds you accept, but it's terrible.
I think we're too far gone at this point in terms of just asking each other to
Be
do the right
considerate,
thing.
yeah.
I think we're too far gone.
For sure.
I think the solution at this point
enforcement, strong enforcement.
well, strong enforcement is not going to come from the police force as it is. I think there needs to be serious reforms within the police force. I mean, you saw what happened with my boy the other day, with how much money he got from the pension fund, and that aside,
Wasn't it a wedding gift or something like that?
don't get me started. We need to see serious reforms in the police force, but I also believe that there are certain aspects of the force that can be outsourced to private business that will actually do a proper job. I think there should be private tow trucks that are booting people and towing them. It's done all over the world. I think the traffic cameras should be monitored by a private company. License plates should be issued by a private company.
It's staggering to me that you got to roll up to a guy at the corner of the road to make your license plate. I don't know where
Anybody
else
can
that
make a
happens.
license plate.
Anybody can make a license plate.
Yeah. I got pulled
in
over
Guyana.
for having a bad license. Quick story. One time I'm in a line. My mom and I are driving, and I'm driving. And again, police decide they having license plate campaign. I get pulled over for having the wrong font of license plate.
Oh my
That
goodness.
is a thing though. That is
No,
a thing.
it is a thing.
Yeah.
But listen to the story. So I say, I kick it up. I'm like, officer, what are you talking about? Like, what font is this? No, it's not the right font. I say, okay, well, what was the font? Give me the name of the font.
He don't know, but it's not though.
No, exactly, right? This is what the font is, and he go and point to some cars outside. So I go and looking at the cars outside, and I notice in different...
Each one of them got a different one.
No, so here it is. I in the police station, right? Because they pulling everybody over, drive to Evilary,
Yeah.
park up, go and talk to the officer.
That's a shakedown though.
No, listen. So I'm after talking to the officer, and he reprimands me and tells me, oh, I got to pay a fine and ticket and whatever. I go outside, and I notice the police car. The license plate is italicized.
Yeah.
The most different license plate.
Yeah.
So I say, okay. I take a picture of the police car's license plate. I change the color to black and white, and I crop it in so you can't tell it's a police car. So I go inside and say, officer, this is the license plate you're talking about, right? Like this is acceptable because mine kind of look like this. What stupidness you talking about? I ain't just tell you this is a license plate. This is the wrong license plate. If you get this, you're getting sent to the station. I say, oh, well, I zoom out.
And show them.
I zoom out, I change the car, say, oh, there's a police car outside.
Yeah.
Well, you got to talk to the sergeant about it.
Because it's a shakedown.
So you
it's
know,
not actual enforcement.
I know, Jared, but what I'm saying is that this is just like what we have to deal with.
So we need reforms. We need reforms there. And
But even if you
this.
put that out to private companies for tow truck, who you think giving out the contracts? Is the police force?
No, but that's what I'm saying. I think if you're giving a contract out for something like that, it goes straight to the Ministry of Home Affairs.
But they still have to coordinate with the enforcement, Jared.
In
Like,
terms of what? So this is how it happens.
How does it work?
So
you with the tow
other
truck
countries?
business who come in to pull away cars who are on the road. Imagine we go out to pull away somebody's car. What authority do we have?
So how it works in the rest of the world in the digital age, the tow trucks have cameras on them, and the cameras show where the vehicle is parked and how it's parked. The tow truck driver will take pictures, and then they'll boot the vehicle, and eventually just come after you boot the vehicle. You can't move, and then the tow truck tows the vehicle to a private yard, and only until you go pay your ticket to the police station and come back with that ticket to the private yard that you get to get your vehicle back. And Trinidad is doing it. And it's working. Trinidadians are terrified to park outside the lines because they say the wreckers, the tow truck drivers, obviously they probably get a commission or they get paid based on who they drive around. They drive around Woodbrook, they drive around Port of Spain looking for vehicles to tow, and it is working. It is something that is working. So why haven't we implemented that?
Off the bat, I think it could get hairy. Imagine trying to...
Short term, for sure.
Yeah.
Short term for sure, but if you put support behind it, and
if it becomes normalized,
if it becomes normalized, it becomes
we can
the
accept
right thing
we can
to do.
accept it just like the lawlessness.
But
we
if
accept.
we
I gotta be
continue
armed to do that
say-
business. Boy, I gotta be armed if I do in that business.
No, you need to have the support of the powers
yeah,
that be.
yeah.
That's
the
what you
the
need
message
have.
gotta come
You
from the
don't-
top.
You
Yeah.
know,
That this is what we're doing now. We had enough of this, and this is what
we
we're
got
doing
too
now.
many guns on the street, man. I was talking to me and Justin Carpenter talking about it today. You know, the slightest thing now is when you get in an argument, you pull a gun, you flash a gun. Pulling a gun is attempted manslaughter. Anybody who understands the laws of this country, when you pull a gun, it's with intent to fire. If you pull a gun and point it at someone, it's attempted murder, attempted manslaughter. That's not enforced in this country. But what we've lost is we've lost the ability to talk things out and reason things out and come to a compromise as to what should be done. The first thing that comes to everybody's mind now is I need to get a gun in order to assert my authority or in order to make my point. And that is the reason for me having a gun. So I can assert myself and I can protect myself against somebody. But nobody's talking things out or reasoning things out anymore. We're jumping straight to violence and straight to guns. And
Have you ever tried reasoning with someone like a man on the street?
I abuse and cuss.
Right.
I abuse and cuss.
Right.
Because I abuse and cuss when...
And then what
it
does that
is
escalate to?
It is so... I don't abuse and cuss as much as I used to, but...
And what does that escalate to? That inevitably leads to violence at some point. You know, like if you try to reason, you get in cuss out. I could probably give you...
But we can't just leave it be and normalize it. We can't.
Well, again,
we
it
can't
goes
just-
back. It goes back to the conversation, right? So that there's like the same. It's like the same thing. How long am I gonna try to do the right thing when I just realize that it's not going in the other direction?
I think more citizens need to start coming forward and calling out bullshit when they see it. And I'll tell you when they're going to call it out. They're going to call it out when it directly affects them. When you are going to call out the man parked on the road with his hazards on, blocking the entire lane of traffic on Guyanese Street, which is already narrow to begin with, every single day you can drive around it and drive around it and drive around it because it ain't really blocking your back today. But the day that you have your loved one in the back seat bleeding out and you need to get them to the hospital and the lane is blocked because homeboy gone in the store with his hazard lights on, or
remember-
the day that you have the
Remember,
meeting
you
with
put on the
Exxon.
hazard lights, right? That's immunity.
You know,
immunity.
the day
The
you
rest
have
of the
the
world, hazard lights mean danger ahead. In Guyana,
but this is now
hazard lights
normalized.
means
I've seen people doing
immunity.
it when there's parking, and we now have 4-lane roads. You look at Mandela Avenue, the back road is now a 4-lane road, and there's a barbecue stand just a little down from Aubrey Barker, down the turn off to Aubrey Barker. And people just stop right there on the road, put their hazards on and go in and do what they gotta do. I got sand truck man pacing coming behind me. I now gotta either lock up brakes or try to get out. But you know, it has now become so normalized that when I stop and cuss, everybody looking at me like I'm crazy because the rest of them are driving around. Because it's not affecting them today. But I guarantee you, if you continue to normalize f***ery, the day will come.
Look at how many deaths, bro.
The day
Look
will
at how
come.
many
The
deaths
day
have been
will come.
recorded.
road deaths.
Road deaths.
Year after year, for decades.
And we're
now.
getting more cars on the road with driver's licenses being easier than ever to get for whatever reason or the other. And I mean, if you've ever driven on the East Bank Road and seen how the sand trucks drive, my brother, that is terrifying.
Yeah.
Josh the Groot has a dash cam in his truck, and he was showing me some videos, and because he plays that road every day. Jono, sorry, not Josh.
Yeah.
Jono, and he was showing me the dash cam videos, and I was like, this is terrifying.
Yeah. This is
What
crazy.
somebody told me a little while ago that now that truck work is lucrative, the minibus drivers are leaving the minibuses.
Oh,
and
I
going
can
and
see
drive
that.
Yeah,
trucks.
I could see
So you
that.
got
Worst
you
combo.
got minibus mentality behind 10 tons
50
steel
50 tons
50
of
tons of
loaded
steel.
sand truck, my friend. Loaded sand
with a
truck.
minibus driver mentality behind
Terrifying.
Yeah.
Terrifying.
That's the word.
But even on the East
Terrifying.
Coast, here, it's like, you know, when they move, they come so close to you, your car starts to shake side to
Yeah.
side. You know, and I
Coming up here, I
Yeah.
stop at UG traffic light.
yeah,
One of them fly by me, whole car shaking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
it's insane.
And I understand that it's necessary for development, but the rest of us have to live here. And it's not right that the rest of us have to punish because you know, in the spirits, or because development has to happen and we need to have sand trucks on the road, there needs to be regularization. There needs to be enforcement of the laws.
Wasn't there something that I don't know, some years ago I seem to remember something about trucks can only operate on the road between such and such hours?
That was a temporary thing they put in place.
But it existed. And
Sure.
did it not work?
Sure.
It existed
why-
for a while. We kind of always do that too. We put in these things and then they just sort of fade into like obscurity.
Remember
and go back to the status
so
quo.
during COVID, lockdown was what o'clock? Where everybody had to
Started
be
at
indoors.
5.
No,
I
but
think-
when they had the truck law, the trucks used to park
Yeah.
up during the day. You'd see lines of trucks
Yeah.
parked
Because they
up.
can't drive
They
and they had
can't
to
drive.
wait until 6 or something like that before. It worked. I seem
Yeah.
to remember it worked.
You don't see that anymore.
I
now,
was
Now
you just got trucks.
I was sitting
24/7.
behind 2 container haulers going down Water Street this morning in the middle of the road. They're not even in a lane. They're in the middle of the road. And of course, every single morning, and this is something else I wanted to talk about, is there's a police car, heavily tinted, windscreen tinted, the back tinted. Every single morning at minutes to 8, they bussing through traffic with their siren on, pushing everybody else off the road. Or you have, you know, the police escorts taking some dignitary and pushing everybody else off the road. Now, I'm seeing GDF vehicles doing it. I'm seeing, you know,
Private citizens doing
private
it.
citizens doing it.
yeah.
And I'm thinking to myself,
with the sirens.
with their sirens. And I'm thinking to myself, but if you are the traffic police,
Yeah.
shouldn't it be your duty to ease the congestion and figure out why there's a block up instead of just using your power to get where you need to get? I mean,
Yeah.
you have a duty to the public, to the rest of us, to clear the roads
The other
instead
day-
of using the power for your own personal benefit.
The other day I
You
was
said this is minutes to 8? Well, it's not 8 yet. Their job started at 8.
No, but they get into
I'm
work.
joking.
Yeah, sorry. Or dropping the kids to work, or,
But
or
hey,
to
the other,
school,
no,
or
but
dropping
the
their
other
wife
day,
to work.
I was on David Street driving west, heading towards Vicinjon, and I'm in the line because it's early in the morning, and a car is obviously running up the other side, boring, right? And he's trying to come in on me, and I'm like, I'm bracing him, but he's struck because the traffic's coming, it's about to hit him.
Yeah.
And we going on this back and forth for like literally like, 15 seconds. And he's obviously like all tinted up, can't see inside. He winds on the window, police uniform.
Yeah.
Let me, I gotta get in.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
Overtaking directly into traffic has now become normalized.
super normal. You're an idiot if you don't do it. You're
And you
wasting
get
time.
cussed.
Let
They
me
have
ask-
the audacity to cuss
No, they
you.
have the right to wage
Let
art.
me
They
ask
have
y'all
the
something.
audacity to cuss you when you refuse to yield to them, coming directly to you.
Let me ask you all something, and it's a question that I've toyed with for a long time. We've been talking for the past, I don't know what,
Yeah, we should change the
an hour,
topic.
half an hour or whatever, about all this insanity on the road. How much of it is really lawlessness, and how much of it is actual mental illness? I'm actually being serious.
I think it's lawlessness.
it's just
You know why?
lawlessness?
Yeah, because when they migrate, they don't do it. It's 100%.
No, boy,
It's
I don't know about
100%
that. I don't know about,
flouting the
I
law.
don't know about that, boy. I'm hearing a lot of people now saying that Queens and Liberty Avenue and the Guyanese communities over there are the same thing. It's the same mentality.
Well, Trump
they're
is
taking
back
up
in
there.
power now. We can fix all that. What are you worried about?
Well, we can see because I wonder. Look, to me, like lawlessness. Look, I understand lawlessness. To me, lawlessness is littering. You throw something out the window, or you pee on the side of a fence or something. To me, that's lawlessness. But when you get behind the wheel of a vehicle and constantly, multiple times a day, day after day, year after year, put your own life and the lives of other road users at risk, because some of these stunts that these guys pull on the road now ain't ordinary.
The
Yeah.
guys on the bikes with the blue lights, those are the best ones.
I mean,
The who?
on
The
some
bike man with the
level,
blue lights.
on
Yeah.
some level, Alex, it's mental. It has to be.
Yeah. You're taking a chance.
more than just lawlessness.
You're rolling the dice. It's Russian roulette, right?
But we just talked about how many deaths a year. It's 100+ deaths every year. And we seeing them now because, as you said, people recording them. we seeing these gruesome deaths. We seeing mangled bodies, mangled vehicles overturned. You know,
Yeah, but that's them. It never gonna happen to
does
we.
that not? That's the
Right?
thinking.
No.
That's the thinking.
That's them. They're never gonna happen to us.
They ain't got we
No,
skill.
man.
They ain't got
Yeah,
we
you-
skill.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But you see that though
Okay.
with the bikes though, and the bikes is what kills me the most. It's because the cars are one thing, right? They kill people, but the bikes are the ones that will kill themselves.
Yeah.
Obviously, they'll potentially kill me too because I have to. What kills me with the bikes and why I detest them more is that they have the audacity to think that I have to concede to them doing all the fast and furious stunts.
Jared Kissoon is a biker, you know. He got a biker gang.
No,
wear
no,
leather
no,
jackets
but
and-
yeah.
I
mean,
enjoy. I've been riding motorbikes since I was 6 or 7. And let me tell you something. I genuinely enjoy riding. It's one of the things that sparks real joy for me. And I have not gotten on my bike in months because I'm terrified of the roadways. I'm terrified. Kelsey abused me all the time that I don't take her out riding. And you know, we used to go and take a ride up the East Coast and so on. I said, love, it's the roads aren't safe. You know,
you
I
used to be such a romantic. Now you're, you know.
not for lack of trying. You know,
I want to switch
I'm
topics.
a victim of circumstance.
Classic victim. You voted for Kamala, didn't you?
If I had to vote, I would have voted for Trump.
I want to use this opportunity to switch topics.
Sure.
On that note,
On that note, you know, we talked about this a long time, but you did bring up something good. You know, you talked about, you know, lawlessness versus mental illness, and we could debate that as it relates to driving all day. But you know, I think mental illness is a good segue to talk about because you know we're men here, and I think like in Guyana, in my experience and having my own personal experiences, I think like, you know, your mental health, I don't want to say mental illness, but your mental health is something that like is really taken for granted, you know, especially here, we're still a very patriarchal society. Being a man is like, you know, is something that is given so much more importance in terms of like the power you have and whatever. And, you know, there's so many men out there who suffer from bad mental health and kind of don't have the resources or the know-how or the support system to deal with it. And I know like this is something that you're pretty passionate about. You know, you talk a lot about. I guess I would just want to start the conversation by asking, like, you know, for guys that, you know, what do you think are some of the main issues that our society faces, our young men face with regards to mental health, and like, what are the resources that probably aren't available to them, you know, to sort of get help, or is it like a personal thing, and you know, their perception of what their value as a man is? Where does all that come from, in your opinion?
I think you hit the nail on the head right at the very outset when you said we were a patriarchal society. I'll take it one step further. There's this macho culture in Guyana, and I think in the Caribbean, you know, based on literature I've read and people I've spoken to, where as a man, you're just taught to man up and deal with it, that you're not supposed to dwell on, you know, things like anxiety and depression. That's not real problems.
rich
You know,
people
real-
problems.
yeah, right. Rich people problems.
people
And,
problems.
you know, real problems is you know, money gotta make, rent gotta pay, you know, bills gotta pay, you know, that sort of thing. That's real problems. Depression, you know, anxiety, you know, other mental health, you know, intrusive thoughts, suicide ideation, stuff like that. Doesn't matter. Those are not problems for men.
Dependency.
Yeah, addictions.
Addiction is a huge one.
Addictions is
We
a
gotta
big
talk
one.
about
Absolutely.
Addictions is a big one. But I think, yeah, particularly in Guyana, like I think we all know about the, you know, the suicide crisis. And Jared, earlier you were talking about.
Sorry. Yeah.
You're talking about there's a reluctance to here in Guyana to admit that there's problems. I think mental health and suicide is one area that you know, you got to give kudos to to all the authorities and all the people involved and that are responsible for mental health.
Come on,
They have admitted flat out that it is an epidemic, it is a crisis, and at one time I think within the last 10 years Guyana had the highest suicide rate per capita in the world, 44.2, and this is completed suicides, right?
Yeah.
Where death actually happens. They didn't even factor in unsuccessful attempts.
Yeah.
If you factor that in, you're going off the charts. And the response has been strong, I think, from the authorities.
Authorities as in who?
As in the government, the
Social service,
Ministry of Health,
yeah.
Ministry of Social Services, and the legal aspect of it. We've amended laws. I think just 2 years ago there were certain amendments to the Mental Health Act. Up until 2 years ago, this is fascinating. Up until 2 years ago, it was in the laws of Guyana, it was a criminal act to attempt suicide. If you attempted suicide and you survived,
Death sentence.
not death sentence, but you could be charged with a crime. And it was only 2 years ago, 2022, when they made the amendments to the Mental Health Act that they decriminalized suicide.
You talk about attempted suicides just now, and that's something probably I didn't think about. When Kelsey used to work at West End Hospital, she used to see the girls who used to throw a tantrum and drink carbon tablets and then come into the hospital and have their stomachs pumped. And, it's something she told me that you don't understand. You just literally shaved 15 years off your life.
Even if you survive.
Even if you survive.
Even if you survive.
Even if, sometimes it's a genuine cry for help, and it's a cry for attention or whatever it is, but people don't understand what you're doing to yourself by doing that, So the attempts, the unsuccessful attempts.
If you factor that in with the successful attempts, it's beyond crisis.
Yeah.
But let's talk about for sure, and I think like that's that's a lot of that's something you see happens a lot in, not only but predominantly in rural areas where there's I guess maybe the feeling of hopelessness or escaping a circumstance is more severe. Like the despair is higher, right? But like for men in particularly, like where does this like sort of come from, and then how is it exacerbated? Because I feel like with a lack of resources or a lack of willingness to get help, we sort of, and even people, I would say, in our circles who are more
100%,
aware
100%.
Of mental health. And so, as men, we have struggles. Like I could, not to make myself a victim, I hate to say that or even refer to that, but I do feel like there's some times in life where, I might feel myself struggling, and as opposed to being present, as opposed to being in the moment or working through the ugly parts of life that I need to maybe solve this problem, I turn to something that's,
Distracting.
numbing and distracting.
That's the root of addiction.
Right,
That is
exactly.
how
But that's what I'm
addictions start.
saying. That's what I'm now beginning to learn about that, because I wouldn't say I'm addicted to anything in particular, but I do
It
find
could get there.
exactly, and
could get there.
but I could see clearly how it can get there. I could see clearly that, like for example, we're talking about gym when we started this podcast.
There
If
are
I-
healthy addictions too,
I know,
Right.
I know, but what I'm saying is that because the unhealthy addictions are so easy and convenient, and they're a fast band-aid, like, that it's so much easier to spiral. If I didn't have gym to just balance that out, I think I would be in a very bad place.
Yeah.
So like, I guess like we kind of have to explore this idea of what are men missing? Like, are they missing the outlets, to the healthy outlets? Are we like consumed by a culture that puts a big value on the social aspect of the vices, the bad outlets? What is going on here? Like, what are we seeing?
It's a complex issue, and it's a lot of the things you touched on are very relevant.
I think we're seeing a breakdown in family structure in terms of parents raising their children to do the right thing, and parents raising their kids the right way. to a point where when kids have issues, the first person they go to is their parents. That's one. I think genuine discipline in school, in terms of not just beating the daylights out of children or screaming at children, but guiding children, down the right path where you have that trust in teachers that you can look to them if you have issues. I had that. I had teachers in primary school and high school where I genuinely put trust in them and confided in them in certain situations. And not to preach, but church is empty. Nobody goes anymore. Nobody seeks solace in self-reflection and meditation to just sit for an hour and determine, well, what is happening? What is happening with me, and what do I need to get fixed, and what do I need help with? And when you again, not to sound holier than thou, pardon the pun, but when you go down on your knees and say, hey, can you help me with this? That's an issue that you have, and you can compartmentalize it and say, okay, well, this is a problem that I need to fix. But when you start seeing these breakdowns in those structures, that's when people turn to the bottle, or they turn to drugs, or they turn to different things because they don't have those outlets. I think the other thing that is needed is, for men especially, is more male support groups, the ability to sit amongst other men. And you and I were having the conversation. I was having a hard time a couple months ago, and I went and met with a very, very good friend of mine who is a recovering addict. And he sat me down, and this is a big man in business. He's not a small boy, and he's not a weakling. He's a big man in business. He's well respected, but he was strong enough to admit that he had a problem. Yeah. My father was an alcoholic, and on his deathbed, he would say he don't have a drinking problem, because it's a sign of weakness. It's a sign of vulnerability. Yep. But when men start to come to terms with they have a weakness or they have a problem, well, then it becomes something that you can fix. But if you're just living in denial that, oh, I just taking a drink to take the edge off, man. I just taking a drink to cool out. No, I just bought a joint, just to bring myself down. Or when you start to acknowledge that you have a crutch or that you have a problem, well, then that's when you're going to start to see some progress. And more young people we need to do more mentoring. We need to do more coaching with we as men, with younger men. To kind of bring them up in the world and explain to them that, this image that a lot of us put up, while we may look big and strong on the outside, we're dealing with our own demons in the background. Every single person is dealing with their own demons. When you said it just now, that you said you've had your struggles and you felt bad for saying that, you shouldn't feel bad for saying that, brother. Everybody has their struggles. Everybody has their demons. Some people just cope with it better. Some people hide it better. Some people mask it better. But you need to be free to come out and say, I have an issue. Be free from ridicule. Forget what the outside might think about you. Yeah,
because there will be ridicule.
Yeah,
of course. Especially as a man. Look, I had some experiences recently where I talked to close people. I told them, hey, this thing is really affecting me, and and the response was laughter. Was to laugh. And, one of the people actually pulled me aside afterwards, after I started getting a little heated and be like, all my friends, I telling you all I got this struggle, and your first response is to laugh. One of them actually kind of pulled me aside and says, don't take it personally. This is how we are as a group of friends. This is how we are. We laugh first, but then, invariably everybody would come around to you, either on their way out and be like, pat on the back of sets, chin up, man. Don't worry about it. We can figure it out or something like that. But
that's not our culture, though. Our culture is, you're feeling down, let me go take a drink.
Yeah, let me go take a drink. Yeah, let me go take a drink.
And you go and blaze yourself with rum, and you skin your teeth for 2 hours, and you go home and you feel like absolute garbage. And then the next day you feel like double garbage because you still...
And to avoid that feeling,
you drink
and
more.
Then you drink more, yeah.
Alcohol is a depressant, so you actually feel worse the next day.
Oh, Lord. Yeah.
No, yeah, for sure. I think, yes, it's tough. It's a weird one because, you can't obviously see mental illness. You know, it's not a physical. It's not like a doctor could come and tap on your head and figure out, you know, what's going on. Like, but it's tough. You also, as men, I think you feel like, especially if you're in a relationship or married or have a kid, you know, there's so much pressure to carry, or not to carry necessarily, but to provide. Even if like things could be split between you and your partner, you know what I mean? But like, you just feel like any sign of weakness shows you might not be capable as the protector of the household, you know?
Turning 30 is one of the turning points, because small boy day is done. Nobody feels sorry for you.
Yeah.
You're expected to know what to do and how to do it. Now,
Yeah.
turning 40, oh geez, the expectations that are put on men's shoulders, and women too. And I'm not discounting that women don't have their own set of expectations, but I'm not talking about that. Just with respect to men, the expectations that are put on your shoulders are sometimes so lofty that you wake up every day feeling like a failure because you're not meeting anybody's expectations. But when men start to set their own realistic expectations for themselves and set their own goals and compartmentalize, these are my goals for today, and this is what I'm going to deal with today, and not stress about tomorrow's problems. I got a good friend, Scotty. Scotty would always say, boy, that sounds like a tomorrow problem. And we used to laugh about it. And then the other day, I was thinking about it, and me, myself, I'm guilty of overthinking. And what happens is my thoughts start to snowball, and I am blinded by today's problems because I'm considering tomorrow's problems and next week's problems.
Yeah.
Now, the way to deal with that is figure out what today's problems are, deal with today's problems, and then deal with tomorrow's problems tomorrow. But don't make today's problems tomorrow's problems. That's procrastinating. Deal with what you have to deal with today, get through it, deal with tomorrow, and you won't find yourself spiraling into this despair and this anxiety that will set you even further back.
I guess a lot of that, is kind of like when they say you gotta be present, and that's like the whole mindset.
Practicing mindfulness.
Yeah, and I think it's mindfulness, and I think it's so much harder to do in this day and age. You talk about addiction, and I don't think I have any. I have
I have an addictive
vices.
personality.
No, I do.
You do. Okay.
I do, but my vices are not out of hand. I just am very aware of them because I know what they can spiral into. One addiction I do have that I hate is my addiction to my phone, and I think that is what messes with my head the most.
You have apps on your phone. You have Facebook and
So
I'm glad you brought that up, actually, because when you were talking just now about things that exacerbate mental health challenges in people, it's not just the phone. It's about what you're looking at on the phone.
100%. 100%.
That mindless scrolling. That dopamine addiction is real.
It's terrible.
But
It's
not only
real.
that, you
And
find
then
yourself-
you're also looking at, other guys. You gotta remember what people post on social media. That's
It's
only the
not real.
highlights.
No,
that's
no,
the
no.
highlights.
No, but
That's the
it's
best
not-
5 seconds.
But this is
of
the
the
thing.
day.
Yeah.
This is the thing. It's
And
not,
you're looking at that,
It's not
And you're
even. It's not
comparing
even.
yourself.
It's not even.
and you're thinking,
It's not even the comparison
This guy
for
is
me.
so far ahead of me in life.
It's not even the comparison for me because I like personally, and
I mean,
for sure.
that's just the highlight reel.
Yeah.
they post
No,
in there,
100%.
right?
I'm very much aware of
Right.
that. I'm very much aware of that. My issue is the narrative, because I guess what I use social apps for is to keep abreast at current events. I always want to stay informed. I think that's important. But I think I spend a good amount of time getting my information from, because again, even, we talk about mainstream media and media. I read Starbuck every morning as a right of, just to get my day going and whatever. But then I'll go on Facebook and I'll go on the different pundits on all sides and I'll read it. And I think I don't take it too seriously, but the constant consumption of how it's presented subconsciously messes with me, because it makes me feel, the feelings I get from consuming that aren't positive feelings. If it's not a cuss down, it's a subtly racist remark, it's a subtly classist thing here, it's it's
I noticed some of those pundits have conveniently flip-flopped on their views.
Doesn't even
And
matter. Doesn't even matter.
But that just
But
shows
hold on a
the
second. But hold on a
BS.
second.
But they got the other negative news. The world is ending in X amount of years. Today
Yeah.
this is
So
good
where
for
do you
you.
get,
everything.
where do you
Tomorrow
get
is
your
bad for
information
you.
It's
from?
everything.
Where do you get your information from now? If the global news network are so polarized, and you just said they're polarized, so you can't necessarily trust what they're saying because they're obviously pushing a specific agenda. If Facebook now is just it's just basically
Curated
rhetoric,
news,
but
yeah.
not only curated news, the algorithm is deciding what to send to you. It's not what's
Boy,
happening. It's
you-
just what
you
the
only-
algorithm thinks.
You scroll, you only got to pause for 2 seconds on something, and boom, that's it.
So
You're
where
Yeah.
so where do you get
Yeah.
your information from in 2024? Where do you
But
get?
that's the thing. It's like you can't. It doesn't really. That doesn't really matter right now. It's like going back to the point of mindfulness. It's almost like I have to tell myself, you don't need to know any information.
Exactly.
You need to just open your eyes.
Trust
you
your
need to
senses.
you need to take a deep breath.
Trust your
You need to
senses.
take a deep breath, and you need to listen to what's going on immediately around you.
And
You need to
don't
listen to the birds singing.
Don't concern yourself with
No.
with
I
what
feel
with
like
what-
we were
with what-
happier.
with
I
what
feel
is-
like we
yeah.
were happier in the 80s before social media.
Yeah.
When
Bro,
you needed.
but even that is so hard. Like, and I like, it's a sickness, bro. It makes me feel sick.
I got to go back to, and you can give me flack for this. I'm old enough to remember when the internet was
Fresh.
fresh, and there was a term
Carb
they
surf.
used to use in the early days. They used to call the internet the information superhighway.
Yeah, I remember that.
And
I've heard that.
I guarantee you, in those early days of the internet, nobody knew. Just 20, 25 years later, the internet would be
What
where
it
it
is.
is now.
Yeah.
There was always this vision that the internet would be, people go on to research, and that like encyclopedias would be on.
How
How
Education,
ironic! How
learn,
ironic! Because
And you
it's
would learn, and you would be able to communicate faster.
Education and communication.
how ironic
look
because
what the
it's
internet is
it's like
now.
the hub of fake news.
It's the hub of fake news. It's a tool for bullying, for intimidation, for propaganda.
Yeah.
In such a short time, and you got to realize the human mind probably was never intended to consume that volume of information. So what you have now is that there's this pressure on people. I mean, I personally don't subscribe to it. I am perfectly okay with saying if somebody asks me, what are your thoughts on this? I don't know enough to have an opinion, or I don't care. But a lot of people succumb to that pressure of always needing to be in the know and always having an opinion about something, if it's a current topic or whatever. So what happens to them now? These are the people that canvas social media for these little snippets of information. You remember it started with Vines, these little short videos. Now everything now, people are getting their news from these little snippets of information. Somebody puts out people getting their news from memes, bro. From memes that are supposed to be hilarious. People are taking that as news.
Yeah.
So what's happening now is people are taking incredibly complex issues, incredibly complex, nuanced issues, and trying to summarize it into the smallest common denominator.
Yeah.
And that's what we have now. You
You-
ask people for, hey, what's your opinion on this or whatnot? And they regurgitate something word for word that some influencer says or something that they saw in a meme. And, it's just that pressure that they feel to always be in the know. So that type of person is ripe for the picking for fake news and propaganda.
That's what they
and
target, though.
That's it.
Yeah.
But
And
I'm saying,
depression.
and I'm saying that person that's always locked in is the new face of the world.
Yeah.
I took Facebook and Instagram off the phone. That shit was
I need to do that.
distracting.
I need to do that.
Distracting and just mind numbing. I mean, when you
Is there anywhere else I could see cat videos other than Facebook or Instagram? Because I really enjoy looking at cat videos. YouTube.
that's my boy. YouTube is my vice. YouTube pulls me in the vortex. I love YouTube.
I know a good place for cat videos.
feline
Uh-oh.
videos.
Lord. Anyway, but yeah, I mean, the fact that people are getting the fact that people are getting their news and information on YouTube,
Yeah.
on Facebook. Sorry, and you asked
And
earlier
Instagram. And TikTok.
on TikTok.
Oh my God.
TikTok brain
TikTok
is a
is
thing,
mindless.
but TikTok brain is an actual thing. It's kids now not being able to focus on anything for more than 4 seconds if it doesn't.
I've also
provide-
realized-
I
like-
read an interesting thing. Not I read. I heard an interesting theory about TikTok. So TikTok is Chinese, right?
Mm-hmm.
Some people are of the opinion that TikTok targets American youth with absolute mindless drivel. All these dances and whatnot to intentionally dumb them down.
I can see that. I believe it.
Yeah.
I
You
mean,
think
where
this
does
is an
conspiracy?
intentional? This is how the Chinese government is going to
This is what is being floated.
take over the world.
This is what's being
But at
floated.
the end of the day, brother, it's a choice. It's a choice to have the app or not have the app. Nobody's forcing it down your throat. So I don't know how much of that bears water. You know?
Well, there've been talks of like potentially banning it and whatnot. It's like, which is another discussion. But it's like cigarettes, right? If it has the same effect on the brain in terms of the addiction,
the dopamine,
the bad
release.
effects, the mental health issues.
Yeah.
They can ban it. That being said, they shouldn't be hypocrites. They should ban Facebook and Instagram as well, right? Obviously, they want to ban TikTok because it's Chinese, but the Chinese have obviously mastered how to,
Did you see
extract
the Senate interview with the
Singaporean
the
guy?
CEO? Oh
Yeah.
my goodness, that guy. I've been in boardrooms, and
Just for
I've-
context, because we're kind of just going off the rails here. The CEO of TikTok is a Singaporean guy, and he
Correct.
was questioned by the Senate.
Correct.
On the operations of TikTok.
Correct.
And they clumped him into part of the Chinese Communist
government,
Party.
Chinese Communist Party.
Which is a typical U.S. thing to do.
Yeah. But he swatted them away. I mean, this guy was stoned. He was
Sure.
stone-faced. He stuck to his agenda. This was a professional negotiator, professional businessman. He never
also
broke.
brilliant move by the Chinese to put a Singaporean guy.
He kept on saying it. He said,
You know.
"Sir, I'm Singaporean. My wife is American. My kids are.
Yeah.
I think his wife is American or something like that." And he kept on, debunking this whole conspiracy theory that he was this Chinese operative here to destroy American youth. That was class. That
Yeah.
was. I have a lot of respect for. People who can handle rhetoric and people who can manage rhetoric.
It's hard, which is why I can never be in politics. I kind of, I look at a lot of politicians, even people we know,
Yeah.
and I'm like, somebody sent me something the other day. We discussed this, obviously there's a lot, with our elections coming up, there's a lot of, speculation and whatnot. So somebody sends me a thing the other day saying that, a lot of people are obviously disenfranchised by the main opposition given what happened last elections. So, a lot of their votes are going to go to small parties. And the write-up was by Kaitor News about, how which small parties are going to get which demographic of the jump ship voters. And the person sends me this, and I'm like, oh, this is interesting. But the article said a study was done, so, and it's interesting what they said. They said, the article said that, middle income voters that previously voted for APNU are going to go to third parties like ANUG and GARD is the other one. I can't remember. No, ANUG and AFC.
AFC.
And then, the lower income voters are going to go for Glenn Lal's party, which I didn't know he had a party, and the Mohammed's.
There's a party, or he's running as an independent?
That doesn't matter.
I don't
Doesn't
know.
matter.
Whatever
Let's
it
just say he's
Throw
whatever.
support behind him.
Okay.
Yeah.
Or the Mohammed's party, which I didn't know they had a party
Didn't know either.
So, and I first of all, I thought that was very telling that
Tells a tale.
that you're saying that the poor people are going for people who are presumably very rich and flamboyant with their wealth. But secondly, the person that sent me, I'm like, so this study, like, who did this study? What's the credibility of this study?
A Facebook poll?
Crickets.
You know,
Silence after that.
I don't know how to take that. You know, like I mean, like that means sort of nothing. You know, because that's just kind of used to give credibility to people who need the credibility. You know, you're not really, you know. So it's just interesting. It's interesting how
Alex,
we
I'll
use
tell
that
you,
information.
Not to go too much into politics, but in terms of a viable opposition, I think they're outclassed. I think you're taking knives to a gunfight. I mean, if you were to sit down and have an actual debate on issues with, and we've had this conversation, I'll use the dream team from the current government being the vice president, Ashney, Anil. You name 3 in the opposition that can go toe to toe. Give me any 3. And you can choose 3 from all of them. You give me 3 that can go toe to toe. You know what? Scratch that.
I could give you 3.
Let me hear.
Timothy Jonas. I guess Nigel Hughes because he's a lawyer. Well, I guess Timothy is a lawyer too. And Ralph.
You think Timothy, Ralph, and Nigel can discuss finance with Ashney?
What's the discussion?
Issues, financial management, fiscal policy.
So you're saying Ashney Singh is the only person in Guyana that has a clue with finances?
I'm saying he's the authority. I'm saying I don't see anybody else on their side.
But that's your opinion, though.
But I'm asking you who?
Who's on your dream team is gonna discuss law enforcement and enforcement?
I know.
I know I'm hearing crickets. I mean, we can't talk about this without me going and without one of us bashing someone.
We're not bashing anybody. I'm just saying.
Okay, fine.
In terms of people turning towards.
Okay, let me ask you. No, wait. Hold on. Let me ask you a question. So, and I'll say something after this, but you said okay, Anil can talk about law enforcement.
Mm-hmm.
What is happening right now that gives you the confidence that he's the perfect person to have the authority on that issue?
I'm not saying he's the perfect person. I'm just
he's
saying,
your guy. No, but he's your guy.
I'm just saying.
He's your guy. Why is he?
No. You're missing what I'm saying. I'm saying who is the person on the other side that's going to outdo him?
Nigel. He has experience in criminal law. I don't necessarily like Nigel in terms of his politics or whatever. I'm
not talking about the politics. I'm just responding. If they were to just sit
good.
in
So
a
why
debate
is he your guy then?
and talk?
Why do you put him over Nigel, who has experience defending criminals or non-criminals?
He does too. He's also an attorney.
Okay, but he's in government, which has the power to make the situation better, and in my opinion, they haven't.
Okay,
right? So.
All my point is, in the context of a viable opposition to come up against what has now become a behemoth, I think we're lacking, and we're also segmented because you just called 3 different guys from three different parties. So even if we have it, they're segmented.
You told me I could pick one from any party.
All right, well,
I'm playing by your rules.
Yeah, sorry, but this is what I'm saying. I mean, where is the middle ground, or where's the other option?
So this is my issue, and I discussed this yesterday, and I'm sorry to talk about politics here. You know, maybe we should have invited
edit it if you want, yeah. You can
edit
it if you want.
No, it's fine. We're not going to edit it. It's fine. But we're talking, right? Like, just in terms of, like, capacity. And I told you this the other day. The party, if I had to pick an existing party to govern Guyana right now, out of just the selection that's available, right? Unfortunately, you guys haven't started a party yet. I'd vote for you if you did.
No.
Out of the selection that's available, the only competent party in terms of resources, experience, and just, semi-respect for the rule of democracy is the PPP, to me.
Yeah.
However, I feel like, and it goes back to our previous conversations too about this sort of absolute, power, and I feel guilty giving my vote to the PPP because even though I think they're the most capable option, if I give them my vote, I give them absolute power, which is unchecked. And they now have free reign to do whatever they want. So, and that breeds complacency and whatever. So, what I think, and I think a lot of people feel that way. A lot of people feel the PPP is the best option for the country, but because they know what we were with before the PPP lost the last election, they don't want to give that back to them. They don't want to provide that opportunity again. And as a result, we'll have a low voter turnout in the next election.
Boy,
That's my theory.
I think a lot of the PPP voters is not what can be done for the country, but what can be done for me. How can I gain off of this by throwing my support behind this party? And I completely agree with you that they have the resources, they have the capacity, but you are definitely seeing some amount of disillusionment in their inability to execute on very, very simple things that are affecting, people on the ground. And it's not to say that we want to look to someone else, because if we look to someone else, well, then we're losing all of that capacity there at the top. We're just saying, hey, man, there's stuff that's not right in Dodge, and we'd like you to sit up and fix it. And this is not a criticism. This is not a bash at you. This is not a stab at you. And there are some in the party that are very thin-skinned and they don't like criticism.
Do you guys just don't just love the fact how we're all, it's ingrained in our DNA. We're so traumatized that the minute we give some sort of criticism to people in power, we automatically say something that's apologetic to why we feel that way.
Because when you speak to politicians,
I know
they
why
yell
it
at
is.
you.
I know why it is, but how crazy is it that we are always covering our asses?
You
on
find I'm
that?
covering my ass?
No. Well, yes. Not that I think you're scared to say what you want to say. We obviously have said it.
Yeah.
Poor Tariq is here having to listen to us.
No,
You said
he
no.
can't.
You said no politics.
He
You
can't.
said you hate the PPP. That's what you said, Jared. No,
I
seriously though. But we're always covering our behinds, right? Like it's always, I don't mean to bash them. I think they're the best option, but like it's almost like it's ingrained, and I see this in so many people, regardless of who's in power, by the way.
Yeah.
But this is like, it's almost like a mental entrapment that we have where it's like, I can't live a life as just a normal person, Alex, who has an opinion, whose life is strong enough in the economy or in whatever market that whatever business I have, where somebody can't take this the wrong way and totally just try to me.
Yeah.
And I think like that's so crazy.
Say what you want about the States. Democracy works, boy. We saw that today. Democracy works. The people spoke.
Yeah.
Democracy works, and these were people who maybe 4 years ago were saying that Trump is this and Trump is that. But when it came down to brass tacks and they had to make a decision as to the future of their country, they chose the better horse in the race, And they'll still, when he comes into power, they'll still cuss him and abuse him and fret about him, and he'll take the criticism as it is, and he'll hopefully try to put things in place to make shit better. But because we're such a small society, I think a lot of our politicians who aren't as seasoned and can't take constructive criticism take it as personal attacks. And what a lot of them have to realize is there is a segment of society that we're not attacking you, brother. We're just asking you to do what we put you there to do.
Yeah, for sure. Never worked like that though. We'll see. On that note, is there anything we want to close off on?
Are you done?
No.
It's been
2 hours.
Time flies.
The edit on this is gonna be a real pain in the ass.
I was just getting into it, man. What did we talk about?
A little bit of everything.
Did you get to talk about your noise nuisance situation? You didn't get to gripe about that.
No,
Yeah.
griping enough about it on Facebook.
And griping on Facebook. When he told me,
I gave that up a long time ago.
that's what I told him.
This is why I do this now.
That's what I told him. I said griping on Facebook gets you nowhere. Absolutely nowhere.
So
You
I'm-
want to
I'm-
fix the situation. You go sit down in the minister's office or sit down in the PS's office and you get them face to face and say, this is broken.
I'm trying your approach, using the system all the way through.
Good.
And then when I don't get, so I started by planting the seed, I've engaged with some of the authorities.
Tell us your noise nuisance first.
So in summary, so I've lived in Kingston all my life. My parents most of their life. Kingston has
Change.
it's been a residential community. As far as I know on the books, it still is a residential community. But it has changed. A lot more businesses, a lot of the people we grew up with have migrated or sold their properties. And look, I get it. I understand how things work in that respect. Throughout the day, there's just so much traffic and hustle and bustle, activity, construction, car horns, people yelling and whatnot. And by and large, we put up with it. We say, we get it. Guyana is on the
Cost of
upward
progress.
trajectory. It's the cost of progress, the cost of development. We get it. We ain't trying to fight that. But it has always been that after 4:30 or 5, when all the people that don't actually live there, they just commute here to work or whatever, when they leave, the area becomes quiet.
A residential neighborhood again.
That has always been the saving grace. However, starting this year, when I first started to notice it, the seawall between Camp Road and the Kitty Pump Station, it's a vibrant, social
Yeah.
spot now. They got a lot of these.
On the bars.
It's always been. We grew up with the seawall line being
No, it
the
used to be
Sunday
there.
night seawall
It
line.
used to be there. Then they moved it up to Sobrianville.
Then they moved it back.
Then they moved it back. So I actually used to go there a couple of years ago. Somebody, remember they had the Venezuelans used to do the hot dogs and whatnot. I used to go there. It was a nice lime. You had all the little bars used to put out their speakers and play and whatnot. But as of this year, it has gone completely out of control. From Friday night, these huge speakers,
Song clash.
basically, and then every car with a big set, they pull up out there from Friday, Saturday, Sunday, they open up and they blast.
And they're next to each other.
Yeah.
So this is the thing I don't get. Now, anybody that knows me knows I love music. I love music more than the average person. But I can't understand how people can pull up, one car here, one next to it, one here, one over there, then a big wall of speakers. Everybody playing at full volume. There's no way you could possibly appreciate or even properly hear what you're playing. It's just a cacophony of noise. But I don't want to get into that. If this is how people entertain themselves nowadays,
By all
fine.
means.
So be it. I don't need to hear it. That's the problem. You see, if there's a nightclub or a bar or whatnot playing music, I have two options. I can go to the bar or I could stay away from the bar. If I go into the bar, I am obliged to listen to what they're playing. If I stay away, I protect my right not to. What's happening out on the seawall now is I am forced to listen to what it is they're playing. I have no say anymore because I'm in my house. That's my last frontier, my home, my house, my sanctuary. And that has been taken away from me now. Because out on the seawall, the breeze blows, northeast? So all that sound travels southwest,
Straight to Kingston.
straight to Kingston.
Through Mercy Hospital.
And people don't understand that.
Through Eve Larry.
People don't understand that. Because when I tell them that I am hearing that boom, boom, boom all the way in Kingston, they laugh at me. They say, impossible. You can't be hearing out on the seawall in Kingston. They laugh. They think I'm making it up. I reported the problem to the police, to the EPA.
Complained
Nothing.
on Facebook.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, right.
What was
And
the
nothing.
response?
The response was, one of them said they don't see it as a problem. They can't understand how the music from out there is affecting me. Another one of the authorities said, oh, they conducted an exercise, and when they went out there, they didn't see any of these cars blasting music or these walls of speakers. And I provided video evidence, photographic evidence. They said they didn't see it, so that's it for them, no issue. They said just a couple vendors were playing moderate levels of music, but they spoke to them, whatnot. That's it, they're done with me.
But noise pollution is a real thing, and it's
I
not
see,
just.
I-
Remember
Alex,
when you lived in
Alex, I'm not asking. So, by the way, this is not just me. I've spoken
I
to
hear you,
other.
bro. I hear you.
I've spoken to other residents in Kingston. I've spoken to somebody that lives. Where is this?
Bro, I lived in
Com-
Sapphire,
complete-
Commons Lodge.
Right, completely in the opposite direction. Says that they can hear it clearly in a sealed up air conditioned room, far, far, far away from me.
So let us look at the same two things: general inconsideration,
Right, that's one.
for everybody else.
And no enforcement.
Lack of
no,
enforcement.
No will to enforce.
This is another.
No
and
will to
again,
enforce, yeah.
this is on the shoulders of the police force, who are supposed to enforce noise levels and noise nuisance levels. But also, I don't understand why it is that working Guyanese need to be on the seawall at 2 o'clock in the morning, Monday morning, 2 o'clock. You got work the next day, my brother.
I mean, I personally
I
wouldn't
think
get,
there
I
should-
wouldn't get into that.
But there
I
should
think
be
every
a-
man to his own order. If he
No,
wants
you could do whatever you want. You could do
till
whatever
3 in
you
the
want,
morning
but you
and-
can't
yeah.
inconvenience
Yeah,
everybody
but
else.
your revelry, your merriment, however you enjoy yourself, must not impact me. I need to be able to have that choice, and that choice is taken away from me now because I got to hear was it is going on.
And the
out
reason
there.
that I know that there's laws against noise pollution
There
is
is. There's an EPA
Rex
act.
McKay shut down GCC for years for having events and parties because of the noise nuisance
Hold
complaints.
on,
love to
hold
name
on.
drop,
They,
buddy.
You can bleep it out.
no, but hold on. They.
It's true.
the council, the city council recently took a decision to ban events at the Promenade Gardens
Yeah.
because residents around the area complain about the noise and the vending and the indiscriminate parking and the
Yeah.
the whole host of.
I could see why they
did
think.
it. But they did it. The council took a decision to shut it down.
Yeah.
So it's a problem that can be addressed. But for some reason.
Can I just switch the battery? There's literally what's can't go. It's 1%.
All right, no, we could end. it.
We lock it off, yeah.
Yeah.
No.
But for some reason, there's a reluctance to, and it's not just in Kingston. I canvass Facebook comments. I talk to people, and from as far as Kanji in Berbice all the way to the Essequibo coast, there's just this culture of loud music
Yeah.
And the speakers
everywhere.
are getting bigger
And they're getting
louder
bigger
louder.
and more
Yeah.
sophisticated.
Yeah.
Bro, I was out there on Sunday. The noise I was hearing at home, I could not believe. I had to go out there myself and see these massive walls of speakers. There were 4 of them right next to each other, all of them blasting. And that breeze just pushing it right into Kingston. Anyway, as you said, I'm using the system, I'm going through every rung of the ladder until I reach as far as it could.
I wish you the best.
Moral of the story is we got to do better, guys. We got to
Yeah.
do better, and I just hope that we continue to try and do the right thing and see some impact before it's too late.
You
Before we
think
move to the dark side. I want to thank you guys so much for coming.
Appreciate it.
Thanks for
I
having us.
appreciate
Yeah, man.
you both, and you're welcome back anytime, Tariq.
Yeah.
I hope that we've loosened you up, so next time
Are you
you're
loose?
here, you just follow and you're loose.
I mean, of morals? Or?
Just generally.
All right, guys. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Thanks, Alex.